The City of Neenah is pleased to provide video recordings of City Council meetings. Neenah residents can get information about City Council meetings, City Committee meetings, meeting agendas, and other documents from the City website, www.neenahgov.org. Neenah residents can express their opinions about city issues by contacting the mayor's office, contacting their city alderman, or completing the electronic feedback form on the city website. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the City of Neenah Common Council for Wednesday, July 17th. The clerk will call the roll. Please indicate your presence on your roll call device as well.
Alderman Boyette?
Here.
Erickson?
Here.
Hillstrom?
Here.
Ellis?
Here.
Weber?
Here. Here.
Stein?
Here.
Jim?
Here.
And Borchard is excused.
Alderman Weber will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There are no appointments this evening. So moving on, is there any objection to unanimous consent of approval of the council minutes and proceedings of June 19th, 2024 regular session? Any objection to the approval of those minutes and proceedings? Seeing none, those minutes and proceedings are approved. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing considering Resolution 2024-10, creating tax increment district number 13. I would like to open up that public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in the public hearing considering Resolution 2024-10, creating tax increment district number 13? Is there anyone here who would like to speak? Is there anyone here who would like to speak on that item?
Can you tell us a little bit about it?
It's the creation of tax increment district. Seeing that no one would like to speak during the public hearing, that public hearing is closed. The next item on the agenda is the report from the Plan Commission pertaining to the public hearing, the Plan Commission meeting of June 25th, 2024. Alderman Steiner.
Thank you, Mayor. Minutes can be found on the city website. Commission recommends council approve resolution 2024-10, creating tax increment district number 13, and I so move.
Second.
There's a motion and a second for council's approval of resolution 2024-10, creating tax increment district number 13. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0. The next item on the agenda is the public forum. This is the opportunity for anyone from the public to speak on any topic that they would like to bring up to the council this evening. We just ask that you, if you would like to speak during the public forum, that you come forward and give your name and residential address. Is there anyone who would like to speak in the public forum? Come ahead, it's fine.
Am I the only one?
No, I don't think so.
I'll be the last one then.
Okay. Would anyone like to speak in the public forum?
The only thing I'm concerned about, my name is Raymond Yaki. I live at 203 Joseph Court, apartment 2 but I just wonder why it's been taking so long on Cecil Street to fix that sidewalk. And I was told by them guys over there that he was gonna look into it, but it's been like 6 to 8 weeks already like that. So I'm just gonna say that much, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during the public forum? This is the opportunity for the public to speak on any issue that they have interest in.
Am I gonna be the last one now? Okay. My name is Robert Lace, 765 Oak. Move over by the microphone. I'm sorry. Let's move the microphone over here. Does that work? I would like to talk about the 2024-3 alcohol sales and gas stations. This is not new for me. I've been doing this for 40 years or so, 50 years. I used to be with Mothers Against Drunk Driving back in the 70s and 80s. I used to be the state coordinator for victim assistance. I talked to too many parents that have lost children in drunk driving. My problem is that you're considering okaying the perception of it's okay to drink and drive, because when you put alcohol into a gas station, you're putting both of them are together. Actually, the history goes back on this particular issue goes back to 1939, 85 years ago. The high school class, the graduating high school class of 1939, bought. They decided to have a party. They bought alcohol, and they lost students, a student or students. My mother-in-law was one of that class. My backyard neighbor was a member of that class. We had long discussions on that. So this is why, when I saw it was 50 years, I said, no, this is 85 years. This has been going on. Also, it was mentioned in the article that there's a gas station on the island. There is no gas station on the island as far as I know. Is there? I think one of you
And
guys.
it's not in there either.
No, it's
It was never mentioned.
in the article.
Well, the article was wrong, we never mentioned that.
Somebody did.
No.
Well, okay. Anyway, and the idea that it's an unfair advantage for gas stations not to sell alcohol is a pretty sad excuse to put alcohol in a gas station. Go to Menasha, Oshkosh, anywhere else, buy alcohol. Right across the street from the convenience stores, you've got not department stores, but you have grocery stores, drugstores. Everybody sells alcohol. So there's enough people in the city of Neenah that can provide alcohol. And Neenah has always been a leader in this area, not a follower. And if you do this, you're going to be a follower. And that's against Neenah's history. Neenah was the first city in the state of Wisconsin also to support a resolution raising the drinking age back in the 70s. If you have any questions about that, I can answer them in private or whatever. But like I said, Neenah was the first city in the state of Wisconsin to support raising the drinking age. And we have saved many, many lives by raising the drinking age and putting restrictions on the availability of alcohol. A side issue, this can be a medical issue. It doesn't have to be a political issue. I don't see any doctors that okay, or have the idea that it's okay to sell alcohol in anywhere else except bars or grocery stores. Not convenience stores. I mean, if you go to that quick trip right across from CVS, they are packed in there. So the excuse that it's going to hurt their business or increase their business is false, totally false. And again, from a business standpoint, I'm quoting now, the communities that allow gas stations to sell alcohol have an unfair advantage over Neenah businesses. False. Totally false. And it's right in the article. Okay. So anyway, that's my point. And like I said, I've been involved with MAD, also the AODA and Neenah. Well, you can't ask any questions, I understand that. Now you know my position again. I've been back here before. I'll be back again if it comes up again. But there's absolutely no reason to allow any kind of alcohol to be sold in gas stations. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during the public forum?
I need a little clarification because on alcohol issue, we're going to speak now. When agenda will discuss, then we speak.
No, this is the opportunity for the public to speak. This is the only opportunity for the public to speak. Please state your name and residential address.
Okay, my name is Ahmed Paul Gill, 1117 South Commercial Street. I also own liquor store named Gill Liquor on South Commercial Street. And also, I do have plenty of experience about gas station. I own this location, liquor store, almost 15 years. In the 15 years, I don't have any violation. I work myself, most part, open to close, 7 days. Basic thing, my point is, when I'm looking into that, I read the story, newspaper story. Liquor store is a totally different business than the gas station. When previous gentleman talked about a gas station, convenience store normally what's on agenda considered as a gas station. But question is, what I'm saying is liquor store and a gas station totally different business. It should not be much together. If somebody asks me if I have a gas, my business will go up. I will make more money. Should I do it? Should I not do it? When I view it's two different businesses should not merge together, my answer is no. Even I will make more money with gas, my answer is no. Even I have room, no. But question is, reason is, even if over FDA, ATF, those large, anywhere have open entry. Open entry means even 5-year, 10-year-old kid can walk in alone. Tobacco product, alcohol product cannot be on the counter. Cannot be wherever outside on the counter. Everything must be inside the counter. But that's a different story, not much law enforcement. Everywhere you can see even number of places sell alcohol, other cities have alcohol on the counter. But question is, their meaning is they not steal, they not get addicted, they not started this way. If anybody with the news lately, probably a couple of months ago, Crest gas station, their glass got broken by the 10-year-old kid. Reason he break it, he want to steal the vape. Main thing is, on the liquor store, I do have a sign at my door, entry 21 plus, otherwise accompanied by the supervised by the parents or guardian. That's make a difference. I have no minor come there. I have no problem. Only minor will come if police will send somebody to undercover operation. Otherwise, individually nobody come there. Maybe somebody need ice bag, other thing, only from neighborhood I know that. Otherwise, I don't have any problem. But question is, alcohol but affect personal mental stage, education stage. Health issue have both very good study there. This part of drug. So do we want to have more drugs on the street? I remember one time we have a discussion here, probably 5-6 years ago. Same time the news came, a grand shoot. Also some people file their motion we can have open until midnight. They have a gun. Police chief have one thing, is I don't have enough officer. Right away shut down. He said, I can handle it, I don't have enough officer. Right away council shut down. But coach, it brings many problems. Minasha, on C Street, Citgo gas station. 4 kids beat up the owner and took all the Delta 10 whole case. 2 gas stations in Appleton, physically, taken all Delta 10 because teenagers get addicted. On Badger Avenue, gas station, Melbourne, and on Nida Street. Physically, teenager took it from them. Do you want a next station like that? I don't. I think many mothers sitting here, I don't think they want to raise their kids this way. If you want to give them education, hell no. If you want tomorrow they will become an engineer, doctor, no. If you want to have their minor job, different story. But if you want education, we have spent $170 million build a new school. So what benefit will we have if we give more drugs on the street? How many they will have more master degrees? My point of view, if you want to go, there are 2 ways. One, you're looking what effect on the society. If any elderman can have their own views, may not be scientific. View scientific if somebody makes search or health department makes search. Otherwise, give this case research to Lawrence University. They will make a search, they will bring a report. Any bill, give to me, I will pay it. Other party, business. Like I told you before, if I start selling gas, my business will go away, I will make more money. If any manufacturing job, one manufacturing job create 4 retail jobs. Retail job don't create a manufacturing job. Council need to focus more on industry creating manufacturing job. If any big company come up there in downtown area, anyone, what we focus on that. All those 3 gas stations on Main Street, they will not be here. They will not compete with them. If I put a gas over there on Commercial Avenue, 3 gas stations there, they will not be here. So this is development. If you bring more and 6 will be out. My basic thing is what I'm saying, they're 2 different issues. Not to mix together development and security. We want a security of a society, we want security of next generation, we want to have more education next generation, that's totally different thing. I do have a couple of things.
Mr. Gill, we have a time limit of 5 minutes for comments, so I'm politely
Well,
asking.
It's a few more minutes, we're
Okay.
talking very sensitive thing.
Politely
And
asking you
I
to
do
wrap
have
up within
experience on
a
that.
minute. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I do have a CNN report before. It's showing on everywhere, become more and more juice coming with alcohol. Coke come with alcohol. Mountain Dew come with alcohol. And gas station have a same door, have everything. Is it in a spike? The whole story on that, I do have. So how it's possible, then you protect your kids when the same door have everything. Written only little spike. Many people will not even understand what means a spike. And I do have here, is Delta 10, that also state federal government going to ban it. And another thing I do have, one story from federal. They do American drink too much? Alcoholic driving debate in Washington. Federal government also under discussion. Whatever those coming juice, alcohol, coming ice cream, federal government also getting very upset. With this one, it's very soon probably federal government also will come up with something. If you change the law now, after 6 months, after 1 year, federal government come and say no more gas station. Then what happened?
Mr. Gill, if you would like to leave those documents with the clerk, then we could copy them and distribute them to the alderman, if that's okay.
Yeah, okay. But basic thing, my request to everyone, all the aldermen, this is you are the in charge of the city, not me. You are the one make a decision. I just follow it. I will be okay both way. If you allow, I will put a gas. I will make more money. But I want every alderman, mother sitting here, choose education of your next generation, security of next generation. Don't go into that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
This is done. Okay. Scott Becker, 1061 Green Acres Lane. Wasn't planning to speak on this issue, but I think having talked to some of the aldermen about this, this is only a possibility. So the city will be able to review any gas station that has this proposal. This is for economic development. There's parts of this city that need economic development, such as Doty Island, such as South Commercial, such as North Commercial. So this is only an opportunity for us to look at. There may be larger companies, such as Quick Trip, Circle K, who would be interested in investing in our city. It is not a bad thing that they'd be investing in our city. And as city fathers and mothers, you have the opportunity to decide that. It will go through planning, it will go through all the aldermen. The aldermen will have a say in this. So it's not a foregone conclusion that if this passes, that the city will go from the city we love and care about to some sort of Pottersville from like It's a Wonderful Life. So that's all I have to say. Thank you much.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during the public forum portion of tonight's meeting? Seeing no one, I will close the public forum. Is there anyone on the council who would like to make any comments relative to what was spoken of during the public forum? Alderman Lundrum.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to suggest to anybody that wants to, this gentleman up front, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. No, right here. Ray. If I can help you with this too, on our website, if you drop down to the calendar and then you click on any of the meetings, not just council, but you'll be able to see the full informational packet, pages and pages and pages of information. So this TIF 13 is all in there. And if you want help, I can help you with that, okay? And I can also help you sign up for emails if you want to get notified by email that way. Thank you.
Is there anyone else on council who would like to speak? Alderman Ellis.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make one a little footnote here. Back when we looked at this issue 40-some years ago, Bob and his team came and they spoke very eloquently of their reasons, and they have solid reasons, and no one, not I, would ever deny him or the group MAD that right to. I do want to share that back in the 80s when Neenah was the first city to vote for 21, Bob's absolutely right. The reason why we did that is we were informed by the state of Wisconsin that if we did not, they would withhold state funding. Our question to the mayor at that time was, so if we don't vote to go 21, which we didn't have to, we could keep it at 18, we wouldn't get state funding. And the answer was pretty much a gun to the head situation. So of course, Neenah did vote for 21 because the outcome, if we didn't, was not financially beneficial to the city. Thank you, Mayor.
Are there any other comments by the council relative to the public forum issues? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there any objection to unanimous consent of the consent agenda? I'll read out the items. Approval of a temporary Class B picnic license application to St. Margaret Mary's for their parish picnic to be held August 14th. Approval of temporary Class B picnic license application to Bergstrom Mahler Museum for their Glass Art Festival to be held August 9th. Approval of temporary extension of license premise application for Lion's Tail Brewery for smoke on the Fox to be held July 30th. And approval of temporary extension of license premise application to Doubletree, 123 East Wisconsin Avenue for Forge summer events to be held July 31st, August 7th, and August 14th. Is there any objection to unanimous consent of those items? Seeing none, those items are approved. The next item on the agenda is reports of standing committees, Special Public Services and Safety Committee meeting of July 17th. Chairman Lendrum.
Thank you, Mayor. We met tonight before council, and it was the Special Public Services and Safety Committee meeting of tonight, July 17th, 2024. There was one item, actually two. We were updated by our city clerk on some of our events and just some clarification, but there was no vote. And item number one, consideration of committee recommendation to approve Resolution 2024-03, accepting dedication for public right-of-way and authorizing temporary use of portions of various properties along South Commercial Street between Stanley Street and Tyler Street, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lendrum, seconded by Alderman Hillstrom. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
All right, moving on to the regular Public Services and Safety Committee meeting of June 25th, 2024. Minutes can be found on the city website. Item number one, committee recommends council direct staff to enter into a contract with Stantec Consulting Services, Inc. for the services related to the preparation of a housing study and needs assessment at a not-to-exceed cost of $40,000 with funding provided by the city's CDBG program, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lendrum, seconded by Alderman Weber. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
And then item number two, committee recommends council approve the parking regulations on Tuller Road between Breezewood Lane and West Cecil Street be modified as shown in the attached, it's not attached to this one, but it's on the website, of proposed parking changes, and that the parking regulations on the north side of Apple Blossom Drive, west of Tuller Road, be removed, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lendrum, seconded by Alderman Weber. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
All right, moving on to regular Public Services and Safety Committee meeting of July 9th, 2024. Again, minutes can be found on the city website. Item number one, committee recommends council approve the sidewalk construction agreement with the town of Neenah, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lendrum, seconded by Alderman Hillstrom. Is there any discussion on this item? Alderman Paulno.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Kaiser, I just had a question on a process. We knew about these sidewalks for a while. What spurred this? Was this something that should have been caught earlier, or is it something that came up all of a sudden?
It's something that we reached out to the town some time ago. It took a little bit to get on their radar, but once it was on their radar, they acted promptly.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
And item number two, and the last one, committee recommends council approve resolution 2024-12 compliance maintenance annual report for sanitary sewer, which of course was an A+ like it is every year, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lendrum, seconded by Alderman Hillstrom. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device.
Alderman Pownell, will you vote?
That motion passes 8-0.
And that's the end of my report.
Thank you for your report. The next item on the agenda, the Special Finance and Personnel Committee meeting of July 17th. Chairman Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting out from the Special Finance and Personnel Committee meeting of July 17th today. First item and only item on the agenda for this is a consideration of committee recommendation to increase Attorney Jim Walsh to 16 hours per week at the rate of $125 per hour, in addition to attendance at meetings as requested by the mayor. The funding source for this increase, per recommendation from Finance Director Vicki Rasmussen, is the city's liability insurance fund, and I so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Erickson, seconded by Alderman Steiner. Would you like to include the
Yes,
verbiage?
I'm sorry, I saw my note and I forgot.
No problem.
One other item that we wanted to include with that is this will be reviewed in 45 business days, which is September 19th, 2024.
Thank you for that clarification. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0. The next item is the regular Finance and Personnel Committee meeting of June 24th.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting out from the regular Finance and Personnel Committee meeting of June 24th, 2024. Item number 1, the committee recommends council approve Resolution 2024-11, authorizing and an update to the Mission Squared Plan sponsor contract to the current Director of Human Resources and Safety, and I so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Erickson, seconded by Alderman Ellis. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. The next item is the committee recommends council approve ordinance 2024-12, amending Article 2, Officers, Section 2-23, City Attorney. And I so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Erickson, seconded by Alderman Steiner. Is there any discussion? Alderman Paul.
Thank you, Mayor. I plan to, I guess, I don't know if the process here is I should introduce motion. I sent an email out in regard to the verbiage in Para C in this proposed ordinance. I find it problematic, so I guess I would, to get that on discussion process-wise, I think it's fair if I want to do a motion. Do I make a motion to amend what's on the floor? Would that the proper process? And if so, how would I do that on my little gadget here?
You may make a motion to amend.
Do I have to do that on the machine or no? Because I didn't know.
No.
Okay. I would make a motion to change the verbiage in Para C in this ordinance as it's written, and I either can read this out or I can, because it's kind of lengthy of the changes, but I had sent that out and I put that in a written format. I handed it out to everybody in the council after I sent the email, and I apologize, Mayor, I didn't include you on that email. So if the process is, if I could do that and then either read that out or read my reasoning, whichever is appropriate, I guess I would look for direction. If you want me to read it out, the whole verbiage, or just read out that I want to make a motion to change Para C. I guess that would be my motion, and then I'd follow up with discussion.
I think it would be appropriate for you to read that out since
Yeah.
not everybody has that information.
Okay. I guess I'll read out the reasoning, or should I read out the my suggested changes are to Para C, primary function, and this would be my alternative verbiage, because the existing verbiage I think is problematic. My primary function, this would be the alternative verbiage.
Para C, primary function. The city attorney shall be responsible for conducting all the law business of the city as provided by the Wisconsin State Statute, Chapter 62.09, Para 12. Attorney, Para 1, the attorney shall conduct all the law business in which the city is interested. Para 2, the attorney shall, when requested by city officers, give written legal opinions which shall be filed with the clerk. Para 3, the attorney shall draft conditions, bonds, and other instruments as may be required by city officers. Para 4, the attorney shall examine the tax and assessment rolls and other tax proceedings and advise the proper city officers in regard thereto. Para 5, the attorney may appoint an assistant who shall have power to perform the attorney's duties and for whose acts the attorney shall be responsible for the city. Such assistant shall receive no compensation from the city unless previously provided by the ordinance. Para 6, the council may employ and compensate special counsel to assist or take charge of any matter in which the city is interested. In addition, the city attorney, in his discretion, is authorized to work with another government's mayor, city manager, or city attorney to render or receive aid, assistance, and advice to that unit of government, provided doing so will not conflict with the city attorney's duties and responsibilities to the city of Neenah. That'd be my motion. So, and if there, so there's a second to that. The reasoning for that is, I think just, having been off the council and been on council, I get very unique and perspectives in regard to ordinances and verbiage. And I think our key, we should always remember that the average people should be able to read an ordinance and it should be clear and concise. And I think this verbiage, which is really cut and paste out of the state statute, accomplishes that, and it also addresses the ability for the city attorney to either, he can either render or receive aid to his discretion. So I think that was the item that really was the main intent of what this ordinance change is. And the verbiage that's existing that came out of committee was problematic because it allows the city attorney to appoint, quote, an acting city attorney based on inability to attend official matters. I think that's loose, and that doesn't have any oversight for council or mayor. And I think we got to be uber clear of what we want as council. It also allows, as I read it, and in my discussion with the city attorney, in my opinion, it allows them, the current writing, to have representing other clients, which seems to be moonlighting for a city attorney. I don't think that was the intent of this code change. And utilizing the pronouns he, him, and his, I think is problematic. That's another item that I think is problematic with this. And then I think this makes it clear, and it is the intent. It was always the intent in the council, as I understand it, was to allow the city attorney to codify the unwritten agreement that's been going on for years. That primarily has been Menasha and the city of Neenah has helped each other quite considerably over the years, and this codifies it. So I think this motion, it spells out exactly what's in the state statute, which I think is good, because I think an average person can read that very clearly, and then it allows the city attorney to work with other municipalities, either render aid or receive aid. And that's the reasoning I came forward with this, because I think our code should be clear, easy to read for the average person, and not to be offensive, but not just written for a lawyer, because average people need to have codes that are clear and concise, and they don't have to get to a dictionary or look up a state statute, in my opinion. Thank you.
I think it's rather unfortunate that you directed this email to the entire 9 council members, but did not include me on it. So I am seeing this now, and also had the email forwarded to me that you had sent out, in which you indicated that you had spoken to Attorney Walsh. And I would like to call on Attorney Walsh to give his opinion, his professional legal opinion on why this ordinance was drafted the way that it was.
It's hard to explain because I didn't draft it. My understanding of what the modification was designed to do was to codify an unwritten agreement amongst a number of Fox Valley municipalities for mutual assistance between the attorney's office when there is a conflict or a need for another attorney. For example, if a family member is given a traffic citation, certainly we can't prosecute a family member without there being an appearance of a conflict. So we look for assistance from another municipality who we've worked with previously, and typically that is performed without cost because there's a reciprocal arrangement in doing that. And that process started over 30 years ago where we had assistance from municipalities providing advice to committees and council when there were, for example, revocation proceedings or proceedings in which the city represented, or the city attorney's office represented a particular department, and the common council needed a council to advise them because you can't do both. There's an ethical problem in doing that. My understanding is that is the reason that we attempted to amend the ordinance. I'm not sure that, let me step back for a minute. The language in the initial crafting, in my opinion, goes beyond that agreement. In my opinion, the language presented in this agreement goes beyond that agreement. That agreement was at the request of attorneys. It had nothing to do with, and maybe this was our flaw, we did not have mayors addressing other municipal attorneys for assistance. The mayors or the common council would not necessarily be aware of when the attorneys had the conflict. They would not be involved, for example, in the management and prosecution of traffic violations or ordinance violations. So the agreement was amongst the attorneys. We didn't keep track of who asked how many times. If you needed help, we helped. That was the language of that was the understanding amongst the municipalities who were involved. And at the time, it was Oshkosh, Appleton, Neenah, and Menasha. That was the understanding. Now, over time, the personnel in those offices have changed, and the original understanding may have been different. But that was the original intent. That was how it operated. And in my opinion, you can craft that a little bit more clearly than what we have here. As far as the language cited above, that's statutory language, that's clear. You say that the attorney shall conduct all law business indicated in section 6209, paren 12. If you're saying list all those things, and we don't want cross-references between the municipal code and the statutes, there's going to have to be a lot of modifications to the statutes, or excuse me, to the ordinance, because we cite statutes all the time so that we're consistent in the language we're using. Those statutes have been interpreted by the courts. Everybody understands what they mean. So I guess I don't know if that answers the question, but that's the review. The comment that we shouldn't have to resort to dictionaries or the statutes to find out what means. I think people would be surprised how often the courts refer to a dictionary and say, what does that word mean? How is that word used? It happens all the time. And if you want to look at how you interpret statutes, the statutes, I have a volume in the office, it's 6 volumes of the state statutes. I've probably got 100 case books interpreting those statutes by the courts. So it's not a simple process. I understand the clarification that you want with plain spoken language words. Just because you use a specific word doesn't mean everybody understands it the same way. So I hope that answers the question or the request. Certainly if there's any questions, I can answer those.
I'll call on Alderman Boyette.
Thank you, Mayor. So I was going to ask the attorney the same question you did. However, listening to his response, I have a new question. In my understanding of the original draft, it did not give our city attorney the opportunity to ask for assistance. And so I'm wondering if we could get that where it's reciprocal. It was only one way. And so I'm wondering if we could ask if maybe that verbiage gets changed. Also, I'm kind of, I don't know, not really shocked, but perplexed that our attorney didn't draft this. And I'm wondering if there's a reason why, and perhaps he should sit down and do a draft that's more specific for the city.
It was drafted before I started. I know why it was drafted the way it was. I'm not going to get into that.
Sure.
But the draft was prepared before I came to work for the city, and nobody asked me. I mean, I assumed that it was drafted per the request of the council and contained the language or the thoughts that the council wanted. I mean, I'm staying in my lane here. I'm not making policy.
Yep.
The
I appreciate that.
the language was crafted upon my arrival. No one asked my opinion on it. I was told this is why it was crafted. It does not reflect my understanding of the agreement amongst the municipalities, so this is what we're working with.
Yeah, okay, well, can I ask you to do it now?
No, I'm not going to craft an ordinance on the fly. You just can't do
No, I'm not
that.
asking you to do it right here and now. I'm asking if we send this back to committee, if we could ask your input and have you draft it to fit the specific needs of the city.
Yes, you can. It can be referred back to committee.
It can be referred back to committee. It was drafted by Attorney Struve.
Well, then I'll make a motion to have this go back to committee so that this can be redrafted with the council's thoughts and concerns, so that it is strategically fit for the city.
We need to vote on the amendment before we do that. There's an amendment on the floor.
Okay.
That has to be taken care of. Then we can refer it back to committee.
Okay.
Alderman Ellis.
Thank you, Mayor. I congratulate my colleague, Alderman Paulno. You put a lot of time in on this, and I appreciate that. However, the reason I voted to second this so we could have the conversation on the amendment is so we could have the conversation on the amendment. I will come right out and say very quickly, I will vote no on the amendment. I will vote yes on the original. I believe that this is a weighty issue. I don't believe that anyone who does not have a law degree should be drafting things like this without having a thorough rinse on it. And importantly, I also think that it would have been proper etiquette that the mayor would have been dialed in prior to this moment. And I would hope that going forward, we would do that. So at this point, folks, I know that I'm not the lawyer, all right? I couldn't do what Alderman Paulno did. He did a really good job on this, but it's kind of the 11th hour from our world to even take a look at this. And I think the appropriate place for that kind of a situation should have been back in committee and not try to get mustered out here now at this moment. So for that reason, there is merit to the discussion. This is not the place for that discussion. I don't have the expertise to say that I can vote for this, being comfortable with it, because I'm not, because I don't understand it. And I would much prefer that we have that communication, conversation in committee with the attorney, with the mayor, and let's make sure that we flush this out so all of us can feel good about what we're going to propose. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Lundrum.
Thank you, Mayor. It's always hard to follow Alderman Ellis because he is so polite. And I'm not usually that polite. And I will continue to not be that polite. So I do commend your comments, Alderman Ellis. The email, I'm referencing Alderman Paulno's email that just the alderman got. This is my opinion. Alderman Paulno did not follow proper procedures and has possibly violated open meetings law, which I have asked him not to do before, specifically sending an item to all aldermen, no staff, that is not on an agenda. So to me, this is using a backdoor way of getting your point across. Emailing us is not the proper procedure, emailing just the alderman, especially for an agenda item. And I frankly don't want to be associated with this possible violation of open meetings law, so I will be voting no. Thank you.
Alderman Paulno.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, first I want to address the fact that the reason I sent it just to the alderman is I grabbed the wrong distribution list in the email. For that, I apologize. Second, I don't agree with Alderman Lendrum, and she can have her opinion on what she thinks the legal aspects are, but saying something's an open meeting request is like it's a ipsy dixit in Greek, in Latin. It's basically just because you say something adamantly doesn't make it a fact. And this was just a way, I'm not on the committee. It was a way to be, I thought, transparent. I should have included other people. I did discuss this with the mayor, and my original email did, as I recall, include the council president and the mayor and the finance chairman, Tammy Erickson, if I remember correctly, when I was originally discussing this draft. So it wasn't like I was doing something below board or something, untoward. As an alderman, we have a right to express what we think and offer solutions. The council has full right to vote it down, but to say it's improper or illegal without any kind of, facts to back that up, I think is improper to accuse another alderman of breaking laws. So, thank you.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device for the amendment. That motion fails 7-1. The next item on the agenda. Oh, sorry. Jumping ahead too fast. So now there is a motion and a second for committee's approval of ordinance 2024-12, amending Article 2, officers, Section 2-23, city attorney. Alderman Boyette.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm asking for, proper direction on how to move to send this back to committee.
Make a motion to refer it to committee, refer it back to committee.
And I can do that at this time.
Requires a second and a majority vote.
Thank you. So I would make that motion to refer this back to committee. So we can do like Alderman Ellis had suggested, where we all sit down and the mayor and the city attorney and the alderman are included in the verbiage of this ordinance.
There's a motion by Alderman
Second.
Boyette, seconded by Alderman Paulno. Is there any discussion? Alderman Steiner.
Yeah, I'm, not going to ask for any details in terms of the referencing, but it sounds to me like there is a nice opportunity to take a fresh look at this and make sure that we're including everything that we want and that we're clear on the intent. And I would certainly appreciate Attorney Walsh's perspective in looking at it. So I support taking a second look back to committee.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 7-1.
Thank you.
Now we do not have to
Because this is an information-only meeting, so. And that concludes my report.
Thank you for your report. The next item on the agenda is the Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue Joint Finance and Personnel Committee meeting of June 25th. Alderman Boyette.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting out on Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue Joint Finance and Personnel Committee meeting of June 25th. Minutes can be found on the city website. Committee recommends that both the City of Neenah and the City of Menasha Common Councils approve the purchase and enter into a contract of a 2027 heavy rescue vehicle from Pierce Manufacturing and related equipment for costs not to exceed $800,000, and to authorize both finance directors to review financing options to approve the most advantageous finance option for both cities and legal counsels to approve a contract, I believe that should be approve, a contract before it is signed that states it's pending budget approval, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Boyette. Seconded by Alderman Ellis. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. Alderman Paulno? Thank you. That motion passes 8-0.
And item number 2, committee recommends both the City of Neenah and the City of Menasha Common Councils approve the order of one 2025 Chevy Silverado and related fire equipment for a cost not to exceed $75,000 in pending budget approval for the 2025 CIP budget by both cities, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Boyette.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Paulno. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. The next item on the agenda is the regular Plan Commission meeting of June 25th. Council Representative Steiner.
Thank you, Mayor. Minutes can be found on the city website. Commission recommends council approve ordinance 2024-11 for the amendment to project plan approval number 1 through 22 for the Bridgewood Plan Development District, allowing the modification to the office building layout and the addition of an outdoor swimming pool subject to the project plan approval letter, and I so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Steiner, seconded by Alderman Ellis. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you for your report. Their
Took
meeting
too
was
long.
the July 9th Plan Commission meeting was canceled, so moving on to the Board of Public Works meeting of June 27th. Vice Chairman Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. Minutes from this meeting can be found on the city website. This evening, from this meeting, we have 4 informational items and 1 council action item. First informational item, number A, the board approved change order number 2, contract 1-24, utility and street construction on Belmont Avenue, Belmont Court, Cedar Street, and Stevens Street to David Tenner Corporation in the amount of $35,896.23. Item B, the board approved change order number 1, contract 3-24, utility and street construction on Bayview Road, Quarry Lane, and Reed Street to Don Hippus and Sons Construction Incorporated in the amount of $255,701.10. Item C, the board approved budget adjustment request, contract 3-24, utility and street construction Bayview Road, Quarry Lane, and Reed Street to Donald Hippus and Sons Construction Incorporated in the amount of $32,916. Item D, the board approved change order number 3, Neenah Creek Bridge, Pfeiffer Brothers, final pay request, quantity adjustments in the amount of $8,898.29. The one council action item, the board recommends council approve final pay request, Neenah Creek Bridge, Pfeiffer Brothers, in the amount of $64,398.02, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Hillstrom, seconded by Alderman Lendrum for the approval of final pay request for the Neenah Creek Bridge. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
The Board of Public Works also had a meeting on July 2nd. Those minutes can also be found on the city website. From this meeting, there are 2 informational-only items. Item A, Board approved pay request number 6, contract 2-23W, West Side Booster Station Building Construction to RJM Construction LLC in the amount of $76,939. Item B, Board approved change order number 1, contract 2-23W, West Side Booster Station Building Construction to RJM Construction LLC in the amount of $2,739.44. From this morning's Board of Public Works meeting, July 17th, the minutes can be found on the city website. We have 5 informational items today. The board approved pay request number 4, contract 1-24, sanitary and storm, sewer, water main, and street construction on Belmont Avenue, Belmont Court, Cedar Street, and Stevens Street to David Tenner Corporation in the amount of $709,547.99. Item B, the board approved pay request number 3, contract 2-24, sanitary and storm sewer, water main, and street construction on East Doty Avenue to Khrushchev Construction Incorporated in the amount of $262,233.25. Item C, the board approved pay request number 4, contract 3-24, sanitary and storm sewer, water main, and street construction on Bayview Road, Quarry Lane, and Reed Street to Donald Hippus and Sons in the amount of $277,917.13. Item D, the board approved pay request number 1, contract 5-24, sanitary and storm sewer, water main, and street construction on North Street to David Tenner Corporation in the amount of $112,275.27. And the last item this evening, the board approved pay request number 2, contract 6-24, curb and gutter, storm water, street overlay, and trail parking on Jewelers Park Drive to MCC Incorporated in the amount of $256,415.42. And that concludes my report.
Thank you for your extremely long report tonight, Lee.
Yes, that was long.
Yeah, I was going to say, I hope you have some water now. The next item on the agenda, reports from neighborhood groups, Business Improvement District Board, Alderman Ellis.
Thank you, Mayor. It'll be relatively short tonight. We had a great meeting, a great review with Sarah Hanneman from Future Neenah, who went to some of the other cities to take a look at what they're doing, reported back. Some of the headlines from that are, we're taking a very strong look with Future Neenah on what we can do with the alleyway between Westcore and the businesses there. And it's a what-if situation. There'll be a lot of people involved with that, trying to see what we can do to spruce that up. The other thing that we'll be looking at is different types of decorative lighting that we can use for downtown all year round. Those are the 2 big takeaways that we had. Sarah did want me to let you know that if any of you would like to participate in either of those groups, she's looking for some volunteers. I already have. The last thing is she shared with us the dates to remember, and of course these can be found on our website, but Memorial Day, Labor Day, we have through October 2nd, Farmers Market, August 1 through 3, Summer Sale, August 22nd, Farm to Table, August 28th, Boogie Downtown, stage in the 100 block. September 14th, Ladies' Day. October 5th, Wine Walk. They should do those together. October 26th, Old Fashioned Saturday. November 7th, Pre-Holiday Shop and Stroll. And then ongoing fall, the last lights of the Neenah Parade. So that's what we got. That concludes my report.
Thank you for your report. The Library Board, Alderman Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. A lot of things are going on at the library. The library board met today at 4 o'clock. During the month of June, almost 28,000 people came through the library door. That is up 15% from last year. Circulation is up 5% from last year. And programs, believe it or not, are up 104% from last year. So the library is very, very busy this summer. The free lunches have concluded. They concluded in the month of June. They were very, very successful. There's a lot of programming that is still continuing throughout the summer, so I encourage you to visit the library website and please check out some books.
Thank you for your report. The Neenah Arts Council, Alderman Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. The Neenah Arts Council met last Wednesday in the council chambers. This is our busy season. We participated in the last farmers market that had a kids' day that was moved due to weather. Then we went to Community Fest on July 4th. We had over 200 kids plus hundreds of family members that made an 4th of July craft. We will be participating at the farmers market this weekend for the Kids' Day, and it is a beach theme. So if you have an opportunity, please bring your kids to that. And then coming up, we have National Night Out and Movie in the Park night, and that is Tuesday, August 6th, at Memorial Park. There will be activities, games, police and fire equipment demonstrations, and then following that in the same week, the YMCA Community Block Party is going to be Thursday, August 8th in the parking lot by the Y. So there's a lot of things going on, and the Arts Council is very busy. So thank you.
Thank you for all you do for arts in the community, Alderman Erickson. And thank you for your report. The Parks and Recreation Commission, Alderman Weber.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting from the June 20th Park and Rec Commission meeting. The minutes are on the city website. Two business items I'd like to just mention. The first, there was a pickleball discussion. Pickleball is definitely a hot topic, right, for a lot of folks. And there was a hope that there was public participation. Unfortunately, nobody from the public attended, but we did have a very good update from the staff on what's available around not just Neenah, but the Fox Valley, et cetera. So we appreciate that from the Park and Rec staff. The second item, I want to just commend Director Kading for getting on the agenda ahead of time some discussion, just preliminary, around the CIP budget coming. I think he recognized, there's a lot of activity that happens around that, and he wanted to make sure the commission has multiple opportunities to discuss that and talk about that. So there will be line items on the upcoming commission meetings as well around that. I wanted to mention that tomorrow night at the library, there is a first public input meeting for the Little Lake Butamore water quality study. So if anybody's interested in that. And the last thing I'd like to mention, the commission asked me to pass along a request to the council. If you haven't had a chance to walk along the Doty Park shoreline, it's an area that really, really needs some help, right? And it's in the CIP, and specifically the commission members asked to, for me to bring that to the council. And if you get a chance, take a walk along that just so you kind of have an idea of the shape that it's in. And that concludes my report.
Thank you for your report. Could you remind me, do you know the time of the water study meeting at the library tomorrow night?
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Thank you.
Yep.
The next item on the agenda, are there any petitions? If there are no petitions, then we will move on to council directives and our reports out on the council directives. The first one being the council directive for acquisition and use of meridian barriers. That is a presentation by Assistant Chief Bernice.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and staff. So before we begin our presentation, there's going to be two sessions. There's going to be one in the open forum. There's going to be a second one in the closed forum. So basically, at the conclusion of tonight's presentations, if you feel that there's inadequate material and you want to place blame on somebody, I take responsibility because I am in charge of those devices, and you could go from there. So again, I'm taking accountability. So we have three things we're going to cover tonight for this open session. First is the update on the meridian barriers. Two is specific language by CIVMIC about the understanding of vehicles during special events. And then finally, there was a couple comments of why weren't all the barriers deployed for the Memorial Day Parade? I hope to answer these questions for you and also provide some additional information for your reference. So tonight for the agenda, we're going to do a quick timeline on the barriers. We're going to talk about the reasons of non-deployment of the full inventory, CIVMIC's barrier understanding, and finally just a brief overview of special events. So the timeline of the barriers, when I came up here in 2019, I was impressed with the Neenah Police Department. They're above the cutting edge, especially when it came to special events. They were doing stuff that many organizations and jurisdictions did not even think of about protecting our citizens. And one example I'd like to pull up was an email back in 2020 of October about the election and how officers within our organization were looking for vulnerabilities at special events and trying to figure out how we could protect our citizens. And this one's, again, we were using the old Shopko building. They had no bollards for protection, so a vehicle could drive through the front doors. So the officers were, hey, what's at our disposal? Maybe we could use some of the concrete barriers from Public Works. So again, forward thinking. August 9th, 2021, we had vehicle barriers for the street ball special event. We did have an intoxicated driver crash into one of those vehicles that served as a barrier. That could have been a bad situation. And if we fast forward into November, that is when the Waukesha Christmas attack occurred. So we were having these discussions internally within the department, but now we've decided with these two major events here locally, we needed to step up our game and start protecting our citizens even more. So the first one was in January 20th of 2022. We brought this information up to the Special Events Task Force discussing the need for movable barriers. On April 22nd of that year, we had our first demonstration of a barrier system. On June 28th, we brought it to the PSSC, kind of discussing options, our vulnerabilities, our problems, what we could do to fix this and make a good solution to this situation. On August 24th, we had our first demonstration, one of many, with the Meridian Archer 1200s. October 11th, additional discussions at the PSSC. And then throughout 2023, we continued our research, demonstrating products and proposing the concept, and it got approved to go in the CIP budget. And again, this was a kind of a combined effort with several departments because everyone had game in this product, because this is, again, for our community, the city of Neenah. Then finally, we also applied for county funds through Winnebago County. This is a letter that I could forward to you. This is from Chief Thompson of Waukesha Police Department showing the need for barriers and for special events. And again, I could forward this to you at a later date. As we enter 2024, February 13th, we get approval through the committee for the CIP barriers. On the 21st of February, the council approves the CIP barriers. The 22nd, the PO is submitted, the purchase order for the CIP barriers. On the 26th, it is approved. And then on the 27th, we go into our grant or our county-funded project, which failed at that time during the council or Winnebago County Commissioners meeting. March 1st, the CIP barriers arrived here in our city, and we got 28 of them through the capital improvement plan budget. Then on March 19th, a county approved another meeting, and the barriers through the grant-funded process was approved. And then on March 25th, Mayor Lang spoke to the county executive regarding the county's process for getting the funds. She then emailed the Winnebago County Finance Director that same day. March 26th, the PSSC approved for the county-funded barriers. April 3rd, the City Council approves. April 4th, after no additional response from the County Finance Director, Mayor Lang sent an email again to him asking for direction. April 10th, CIP barriers arrive in Neenah. County-funded barriers are ordered, May 8th, after no additional response from the County Finance Director, a month later, Mayor Lang wrote to him again, along with the county executive, asking for updates. We didn't get a response till May 21st, and I'll cover that here shortly. May 11th, our first deployment of our very own barriers, and this happened at Green's Block Party. We utilized 17 barriers. On May 21st, we received an email from Beth Oswald with direction. And this was after the Neenah News provided an article concerning the distribution of funds and the lack of communication. Once we received that email from Beth, an hour later, we sent the checklist and all required documents to the county finance director. May 22nd, county-funded barriers arrive in Neenah. May 27th, our second deployment at Memorial Day, we deployed 27 barriers. June 12th, our third deployment, summer kickoff, 24. June 17th, we received the memo of agreement from the county finance director. And then, as you guys know, Community Fest, we deployed all 59 barriers. So this is a quick understanding of the timeline of the barriers that we've had, a great tool that we're using with our community. So again, the question came up of why I did not deploy all 59 barriers for the Memorial Day parade. So if you recall, we received our barriers from the city or the county funded system, on Wednesday, the 22nd. That Memorial Day was Monday. When they arrived here in town, there was a discrepancy with the product. Nothing major, but more of a cosmetic issue. And that cosmetic issue was the color. So immediately the delivery team leader started taking pictures, making phone calls, writing emails, great customer service through the Meridian community. He's like, Jeff, we're gonna fix this. The only problem is it's gonna cost some money. So figure they have to pick these up from here locally, bring them up to Green Bay. They got to be put on rail. They got to go to somewhere here in the country. They got to be sandblasted. They got to be painted, and they have to be shipped up here. $20,000 to $30,000 expense that Meridian is going to pick up because they made a mistake and they're going to stick to it. The problem is he needed executive approval before he could give the full authorization. Jeff, I'm 99.9%, but I just need that okay, and we'll make it happen. So this is now Thursday of that week, and Memorial Day is Monday. I'm very hesitant to use a product that we're returning, that if something should happen, maybe they said, hey, you used them, it's not null and void, something like that. So again, my personal opinion. Fault me if you wish. So I was hesitant on that. Did some of these barriers get deployed? Yes, for that event, because my communication wasn't told to the chain when Public Works put them out there. So I didn't want to, but somehow some of them, through the lack of communication on my part, got deployed. So I believe in the crawl, walk, run theory. You need to crawl before you walk before you run. The barriers are a learning process. It's not just a plug and play device. We need to learn how to properly deploy them, set them up, and there's a couple other factors that I would like to go into under the same theory. The first thing is we changed our increase of the footprint of our package. I'm going to use the summer kickoff concert as an example. Back in 2022, 2023, when we were testing out these devices, we set them up here in this Maine and Doty in Wisconsin and Church. During that time, we would deploy 8 to 9 per intersection, so a total of 16 to 18 devices were used. We didn't use any cables because back then they didn't believe in the use of cables. They still sold them. They sold a 4-foot one and a 10-foot one. In 2024, this all changed. When we got our own, we kind of looked at it and we deployed 27 barriers. And learning as we go, I would actually deploy more. There's a couple key areas that I would like to safeguard. So our footprint's going to be well over 30 just for this footprint venue. And we also used 4-foot barrier cables. These help the devices almost like a daisy chain. If a vehicle hits them, multiple barriers kind of surround the vehicle and help the final impact location. So we're here using those now. And then they no longer sell the 10-foot. The photograph below shows the 10-foot cable being used. It was typically used for an egress point where a vehicle could come through, and again, a larger area of coverage. So now there's a concept called the 6-foot rule. The width of the barrier is 24 inches. They recommend a maximum of 48 inches for coverage, so a total of 6 feet. So 6 linear feet, that is what we have for one barrier, the distance before it bumps up to another one. We're deploying more barriers in a smaller space. This is a picture from very Neenah Christmas where we used 9 barriers in 2022. Again, our footprint for this upcoming venue in 2024 is going to be a lot more. It's a photograph of the summer kickoff. You can't see the barriers along Church Street, but you can see the barriers along Doty Avenue. Again, we increased our package there. Here's a picture of Church Street, and you could see the cables being used on the devices. Again, we analyze what is the best locations for these, and we deploy the cables appropriately. Now, as you could see on the picture on the left, it's basically layers of defense, I would like to call it. There's a patrol car there, then there's soft barriers, then there's hard barriers, and then we also incorporated some of the vehicles from the venue as another layer, because we had this large population, as you could see. That's who we needed to protect, our citizens of our community. So you're probably going to ask, why are there patrol cars there? Isn't that defeating the purpose? So I'm going to just give 4 reasons why we use the police car there. First, it's a visual deterrent. A person with ill intention may arrive and they see that law enforcement's on site, and they may change their motive. We don't know, but it may happen. Number 2, it's a source or a hub of resources. I don't expect my officers to walk around with defibrillators and first aid kits and tactical gear. I want a location close where they could run to, get their gear, and then respond appropriately. Number 3, if we have a combative subject, we don't want the patrol car down the road. We want to bring that person to the patrol car immediately for their safety, for the safety of the officers, as well as the safety of all participants there at the venue. And number 5, it could be used as a transport device for an MCI, a mass casualty incident. If we look back to the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando, Florida, many of those victims were transported by law enforcement vehicles because the hospital was down the road. Our job is to save lives, and that could be a tool in saving lives. Number 4, where we're learning about using this product again, the crawl, walk, and run method. We're working with other departments. Public Works has been fantastic. They're part of the deployment plan and recovery plan, and they've been helping out us tremendously. The next thing is now we're working with another city, Menasha. Again, we're working through boundaries and barriers, just like the section here on Nicolay. There's a lot of obstacles that we have to overcome and work through. So that's why the vehicles were used for this section rather than the barriers because, again, it is still a learning process. And finally, one thing that I'm happy that's happening is Meridian Barriers is offering a certification program where they focus on analyzing the deployment location in your planning process. They're looking how you can incorporate artificial and natural barriers with your deployment. Is it better to do it here or is it better to do it there? So this will definitely help for our end goal where it's a proficient plan and we're good to go. So the next thing is this question on CIVMIC. So right off the bat, I take responsibility on this because it caused some drama within, I guess, our county and city. So during the multi-year planning process, I spoke to someone at CIVMIC, and they told me that they may not cover vehicles when it comes to special events because this is not the intended purpose of a vehicle. I lost that memo or that piece of paper with the name and date who I spoke to. Again, my fault. And that created a lot of problems within our community. We did get a letter from CIVMIC on June 17th kind of outlining what they believe in. And if you take a moment to read this. And CIVMIC is our partner. They work with us, they help us, but there's some gray material in this letter, especially the last line. However, each claim is reviewed based on the specific circumstances at hand. I consider that gray. It's a case-by-case basis. Special events. We follow some objectives when it comes to special events. And the first one is the focus on safety and security for all patrons, participants, and staffing by mitigating threats and protecting constitutional rights. We also want to provide effective and efficient vehicle and pedestrian management, the use of funding sources appropriately, and then ensure that there's adequate resources to respond to other parts in the city while that special event is going on. And then finally, help the organizers promote the overall mission of the event and to present the city of Neenah in a positive image, ensuring everyone has an enjoyable experience. The objectives of special events here in the city. I look at special events in two ways, a closed forum and an open forum. I consider a closed forum are those events that we have total control of the perimeter. Nothing comes in, nothing goes out when we're talking about vehicle access management without law enforcement moving certain barriers. So these are an example. When you look at open venues, we still have access points where vehicles could come in, and I'll talk about that more in the closed session. So any type of law enforcement special operation, we do a risk assessment. For example, when we do arrest and search warrants, we kind of look at what we're facing. Are there language barriers? Are there medical issues? Are there surveillance and so forth? The same thing that the United States Department of Homeland Security does for special events. It's a special event risk analysis, and it's across the board that the fire department uses, the police department, Parks and Recs, everyone that has a stake in this event, they focus on the model. So it covers three areas: threats and hazards, vulnerabilities and impacts and consequences. So threats and hazards, they're broken down into three. It's going to be natural, technological, and man-made. For example, natural. Is there a major thunderstorm coming this weekend when we have this special event? Number two, technological. Is there going to be a power failure? And number three, man-made, is there going to be protesters or an assassination attempt? And then we kind of look into our vulnerabilities. Do we have protective measures in place, and what are our counter-protective measures for these things? And then finally, is what is the impact or consequences for these actions? A mere bump within the venue, a minor disruption, to significant loss of life. We have to do the overall analysis. And the government came up with a quantitative approach where they basically look at this, your threats and hazards times your vulnerability times your impact and consequences, and you come up with a rating. And the rating is broken down into low, guarded, elevated, high, and severe. And this is something we use with our planning process. And then finally, I just want you to know our main goal is the protection of the community. Again, the crawl, walk, and run focus, we're eventually going to be very proficient with the deployment, the use, and the recovery of this product, but it may take some venues to get experience and knowledge. And finally, I'm accountable for this, so if there's any action, it comes down on me. Speaking to Attorney Walsh, if there's any questions, it has to be focused on this open session. There may be questions pushed to the closed session for security reasons. At this time, any questions? Thank you.
We have a question. Hold on.
I just want to make a statement. I want to applaud you for this presentation. This was very informative, and I will tell you 85% of it I did not know. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
This was very well done. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Alderman Polno?
Thank you. I'm not sure if this would be closed or open because I don't really know what the close is about, but anything involving the memorandum of understanding, can that be asked? So it's my understanding, in my brief, there was a memorandum of understanding that we had to solidify, and I believe that's been solidified. I don't think that came through council, but there was verbiage in there, if I understand correctly, that the Winnebago County has access, and it wasn't, at the first reading, it wasn't clearly defined what that access is. Have we mitigated those waters, or what is our culpability for with the Winnebago County?
Me to answer that, or would you like to?
No, can you please answer that?
Sure, sure. So we did talk through that entire process with our city attorney and with the corporate counsel for Winnebago County, and came to an agreement on the use of the barricades. And Chief Olson can attest to this. It's not too unlike the use that we exchange equipment and have that type of arrangement with other municipalities in the case of emergencies. So mutual aid, sorry, couldn't remember what the exact term was, but both sides were fine with what the final agreement was, and also just like to clarify that we have now received that money for the grant, and that has been deposited into our account.
One last thing then, per the process though, wouldn't that have been something that should have came through Finance and Council as an agreement?
I don't believe so.
Well, I was understanding all agreements that the city enters and or obligates us in future years for equipment would come through council. Has that changed, or is that just not the practice we're doing now?
In this case, it didn't seem that it was a formal agreement that was made between the city and Winnebago County that wasn't different than our mutual aid agreement that's already in place.
Well, that mutual aid agreement goes through council, if I'm understanding correctly. If you're talking mutual aid like the city and like Menasha and Neenah, like for all those intermunicipal agreements, those all always went through council. We're talking there's one that's coming to the Public Service and Safety Committee on the 30th. And that it's fine that it's done. I just think it's a pragmatic approach that has council viewpoints in regard to something that obligates the city for future years.
Any other questions?
I just have one more, Mayor. I had asked also about the grant process, and of course you wouldn't have anything to do with that. So I was just curious, is that part of the closed session then?
No, and that's
or-
not really part of the same
Well, it was.
acquisition and use of meridian barriers.
No, it was part of my council directive, was to revisit if we needed to, the grant process policy.
My recollection
You can
was
check
that-
the minutes.
Okay. I don't think that was the case. It might have been when it was brought back and voted on. I think additional language was added. Alderman Erickson?
I just have a question. So will there be a time, now that we have the barriers in place, that we will use the large vehicles as a backup support or additional support? Is that something that we'll still see in our community on occasion if need be?
That is correct.
Okay.
Again, our objective is safety of the community. We want a good layered defense or a protection package, so there may still be vehicles used for this purpose, in
Okay.
addition to the support of the barriers.
So we shouldn't be surprised if we see them around town or as an event. It's just another layer of protection.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions?
Mayor, I have the minutes right here from tonight's past meeting minutes that we had accepted this evening. And it is under council directives, letter A, third paragraph down, discusses the grants.
I think my recollection was there was a little bit of discrepancy in the first council directive that you gave in the previous meeting versus what then was put on the table or
This
talked
is-
about from the time that it was voted on. I'm not sure it was.
This is when we voted on it.
Right,
If
right.
you'd like, I could pass it down.
Right. So I'm asking, I believe that the initial council directive had a different direction. And in my opinion, it would be much cleaner to have a council directive discussing grant process as a separate item from the barricade.
Well, that's why I asked for it to be brought in with this evening. I mean, it's right here in the minutes. I don't know how else to clarify it more for you.
If I could, I think clerk can clarify, the motion was made in the meeting prior. That is the motion that was, the next meeting we voted on that motion. So it's not the discussion, you have to go back to the meeting prior. Is that correct, Char? Somewhere in the packet, I thought I saw the motion itself, but I don't want to dig through it, you probably know this.
The motion itself was the actual agenda item on the meeting on the 19th. I'm pulling it up right now.
Well,
That was the actual motion.
It's spelled right out in here. I mean, it's black and white. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, if I could, I found it, Char. The motion was, motion by Boyette, second by Erickson for an update on the Meridian Bears from the police department and confirmation on the use of city vehicles to block traffic, on the use of city vehicles to block traffic policy from CIVMIC, specifically what the policy will and will not cover. That was the motion.
That was the motion, and then there was discussion. Actually, the third paragraph reads, lastly, Alderman Boyette is curious if the grant policy would need to be revised using this situation as a guideline so that something like this does not happen again and the city can learn from this situation.
Correct.
So you were curious if the grant policy needed to be revised. So that's not really part of this. It kind of sounds like that's the next step.
In my opinion, it was listed, and I'm looking for feedback on that, and I'm not getting any of that.
I would like to suggest to you that you could issue a council directive for discussion of grant policy, if that's something that you would like to do, because I see that as kind of the
So does it-
potentially a follow-up from this discussion.
So does that go to finance and personnel, or is that another council directive, or where does that go?
I believe that would be a council directive to have a review of our current grant policy.
And how would I need to word that so I make sure that I get it this time?
What are you asking for?
Well, let me go back and find it. Directive for revisiting the grant policy and using this situation with the meridian barriers as a guideline to ensure that we don't have issues such as, for example, the MOU problematic MOU that we had, and that the city can and the council can continue to learn from this situation. I mean, it appears that we have a grant policy and these funds that are very helpful in getting equipment such as these barriers, which I was very much for from the very beginning, and continue to be happy that we have obtained them, but we know very little about the grant policy and how we utilize it. And so somewhere along the line, I feel that something went awry, being as that the MOU we received from the county was in an article in the newspaper that said we had a contract with them, and you were just as surprised to see what they sent you as we were. And so...
and I did share that with you.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's problematic, and I just want to make sure that our policy is indeed in good standing and in good shape, and we don't have to revise it in any way. And maybe we can, if need be, make some changes to it so that we don't have to do this again, or we don't inquire this issue again with something in the future. This has always been about getting information and using this situation as a learning experience.
And I think based on what you're communicating to me now, that I would recommend that you come and have a conversation with the city attorney and myself about the grant policy, and we can review that if you would like to make it a council directive so that all council is participating in a review of the grant policy. You can make a motion to do that, or you can come and have a conversation about it and learn about it.
Actually, I think I'll do both, but I think in the meantime, I'm pretty sure that the other aldermen can learn from this as well. And since we're all about learning tonight, I think that would be great if we could bring that back. So I will make that motion to have that update and more information on our grant policy so that we all can be up and informed on where we're at and if we need to make revisions for future.
Second.
There's a motion and a second for a council directive outlined as Alderman Boyette presented to have a review of the grant policy, if I'm understanding that correctly.
again, using this scenario as an example. Go ahead.
Well, this scenario was very odd because they created rules that then they took away from us twice. So then we filled out a survey that wasn't going to be our application, and it turned into our application. So this is a very odd
Yeah, it's
circumstance. It's not the normal way grants would normally go. It was
right.
And that's,
Yeah.
It's a
Okay.
very unusual
and I appreciate that because that's new information. So again,
So I could
that's
still
the whole
use that
premise
as
of
the
this
example?
is that, yeah, exactly,
Okay.
is that we as a council aren't aware of a lot of this. And if we have a policy, I think all of us should be aware of what our policy is. And so when these
Sure.
abnormal things do come up, we're
Sure.
all aware of, hey, that's not right, rather than, well, it's in the paper, do we believe it? Or,
Sure.
and then we're grasping, so,
And I'll use this example, but then say how it should be done.
Correct.
And also,
yeah,
yeah.
I
Okay.
appreciate that.
Okay,
Absolutely.
understand.
Thank you.
Thanks.
There's a motion and a second. Oh, right. So that's a new council directive that will be moved on to the next council meeting. Alderman Paul No.
Yeah, I was just getting clarification that will that be coming back in 2 weeks, which will allow you to clarify what you want, Alderman Boyette.
I think it's going to be 3 weeks, isn't it, the 31st? Yeah, because the
there's
31st
five
will be in
weeks
there.
July.
We get
So
one
it
more
would be,
Wednesday.
Yeah.
7th.
Yeah.
It's 7th?
Correct.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Alderman Paulno.
Any additional questions relative to the Meridian Barriers Council Directive? Seeing none, I believe we will move on to the Council Directive 2024-02, Special Event Permit Processing.
I believe, Mayor, thank you, that we have covered that in our past meetings, and the committees now and the aldermen are getting copied on those requests as they come through. So from an informational standpoint, I believe we've got that covered. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Paul, no?
I just want to, in the Public Service and Safety Committee, we had that, it was on the agenda for an ordinance change relative to this, and then that was basically, discussion wasn't tabled, but it was because there was information that wasn't in the packet. There was 28 pages that were discovered that wasn't in the packet, so we didn't take any quantitative action to change things, so I didn't know, was that supposed to come back to committee? Just to dovetail on what Alderman Ellis said, originally it was at our committee, and then it wasn't talked about, and then it just kind of went away.
I don't believe so, because I think Alderman Ellis became aware of the fact that all of the committee members and council have been receiving the updated list of community events and permitted events. So it made the directive rather a moot point.
Okay, but there was something, so all that work that was done for a potential ordinance change has been disregarded now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Those are different ordinance changes.
Oh, okay.
Those are ordinance changes that are coming on behalf of future Neenah that the attorney has not been able to review. So those changes will be coming back to Public Services and Safety.
Oh, and that's also relative to the permit process, just a different aspect? Because,
It's changing the venue for the 100 and 200 block of West Wisconsin.
that's the T-Dora, correct? The Dora or the,
And in the special events, yep, they're tied together.
okay. Because there, all right, because relative to our discussion when that information was left out, that is the item I'm speaking of, the 28 pages. There was an ordinance change proposed for that in regard to this permit process, correct?
We were going to do it together as a combined, but I did answer the council directive with.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I guess that's not happening. Okay, thank you.
And this is the spreadsheet that we were talking about that's included in every packet. It's tied with the consent agenda. And right here are the special events
I have to learn to scroll down further in the future.
That's why you.
If there are no further questions, we'll move on to Council Directive 2024-03, alcohol sales in convenience stores. Who is taking that?
If I may, Mayor, I would like to defer to our big guy over there in Community Development, who was requested along with his colleagues to provide us thinking, thought process as to what this ordinance might look like. Chris.
Thank you, Alderman Ellis. A little bit of deja vu writing this memo.
Yeah.
So I've looked back at the previous conversations that previous councils have had on this topic. I've talked with Police Chief Olson and Clerk Nagel. I have provided you in a memo, and unfortunately, I just want to go through these bullet points very quickly. I'm advocating that if in fact the ordinance is changed, that we would allow the sale of malt beverage, which essentially is beer. It would require a special use permit. That would give us a double level of protection as we have these facilities, so they don't evolve into something different than what they're originally approved. I'm not going to go into the issues I referenced in my memo. The quotes make all the difference. It's really strange to me that that's the way they wrote state statutes, but it is what it is. The special use permit would detail the layout for the floor plan of the business that would be conducting the sale. Some of this is maybe a little generic, but I think it's probably necessary. Would prohibit tasting events. One item that we did modify since the last time the council discussed this was to increase the allowable square footage of a convenience store up from 650 square feet to 750 square feet, or to 10% of the store, whichever is greater. We are continuing to see the modern convenience store grow. The Quick Trip, our newest convenience store on Green Bay Road, is about 2,000 square feet less in square footage than what the new Quick Trips are being built at. So they are ever growing. We would limit the time of sales from between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. We would limit advertisement, particularly on the exterior of the building. We would not allow single-serve beverages. We have modified the number of cans or bottles to 4 from 6. That was in response to what we're seeing with some of the microbrewery options for stores that sell in 4-packs as opposed to the traditional 6-pack. There would be no keg sales. One item we did change from the last time, we had requirement for 2 cashiers. We have reduced that to 1, or I have reduced that to 1. Obviously, that person would have to have a bartender's license in order to sell the alcohol. As I mentioned, as a matter of process, we would include the conditions both on the special use permit and on the liquor license. As you know, licenses are renewed every year, so we have an opportunity to rescind the license if there are issues with a particular establishment. And lastly, if the council so chose to pursue the malt beverage, we also have an option. I believe it may need a little more confirmation with our city attorney, but we could allow the sale of wine. Wine is the Class A liquor license. That particular license allows the sale of all fermented beverages, including the brandies, whiskeys, vodkas, those types of things. By issuing it as a special use permit and with our license, we have the ability I believe, to restrict that to just wine. So those are the provisions that I would recommend in the code. If the council again so chooses to modify that ordinance, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Alderman Boyett.
Thank you, Mayor. Something caught my eye, Director Hayes. It said no tasting events, like sampling. What is the difference between a convenience store doing that and, per se, like festival foods? Or, because I know they do them. That's why I just use them. For an
That would be the difference. You wouldn't be able to have a tasting event in a convenience store. So that's simply,
So that would be a restriction on the license
I would-
then, not the overall license that other establishments have?
I think we may be able to put that provision right within the ordinance, that there would be no tasting events at an establishment that also sells gasoline.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Alderman Steiner.
I think my question was similar to Alderperson Boyette, in that these restrictions are above and beyond what just a Class A requirements are, right? This is specific to this change, potential change for the convenience store. And they are, several of them, above and beyond what like a grocery store currently has, as an example.
Yes, absolutely. And just for clarification, some of the restrictions would be in ordinance form, general blanket, you can or cannot do this. The special use permit and the license itself would dictate specific circumstances for a specific establishment. As an example, this is the square footage of the floor area that you can allocate to alcohol sales. One thing I think I did miss is that I had recommend within this ordinance that the alcohol be contained within a cooler or a cage that can be locked. As you know, some of the stores in town have on-floor displays where it just sits on the floor. I'd recommend that this be in a location that can be locked up.
Alderman Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question, and maybe this is for the city attorney. If this is an ordinance change, does this require just a majority, or is it a 2/3 vote?
At this point, I would say it's a majority vote.
Okay, thank you.
And if I could just add, the thought tonight was to present
Right.
components, right? So the ordinance would, if, again, the council so chooses, would come forward at a later date.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And Paul No.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Hazer, it says at the bottom of your memo of July 11th to direct staff to prepare an ordinance to modify this code. Are you looking for direction via a vote? Would that be your preference?
I think so, yes.
Now, is Attorney Walsh, is this a proper place to do that is that allowable in the agenda or?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Well, then I would make a motion to direct staff to prepare an ordinance to modify the Neenah Municipal Code to permit the sale of malt beverages at establishments that also sell gasoline with added provision to allow wine if he thought that was applicable, because he mentioned that memo per July 11th, and I would make that motion.
Second. There's a motion by Alderman Paul No, seconded by Alderman Boyette. Alderman Ellis.
Thank you, Mayor. Just in conclusion, because I know not everyone is going to be happy with whatever this body does, and that's understandable. And I can also recall several decades ago when grocery stores were allowed all of a sudden to do the same thing. And then it was also the pharmacies. And a lot has incurred, and I think it's worth saying again, in the 40 years since we've had this ban in place, is groups like Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, the education system into itself, the Tavern League, many, many places. I think they have stepped up. I think we are more learned than we were. I think if you drive downtown Neenah and Menasha and you try to count the taverns, you can put them on one hand. And I can recall my college days in the 70s, we could do a crawl walk in Menasha and there were 20 taverns in a 4-block radius. Straight up. All right, a lot has changed. I would hope that our friends that have the liquor stores would not be overly damaged, as the grocery stores wouldn't be, as the pharmacies wouldn't be. And my last point of support for this, quite honestly, from an economic standpoint, is the fact that today's convenience stores is yesterday's neighborhood grocery stores. And this is a part of that, and this brings us into sync with our neighbors. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I've spoken on this many times, and I'll keep this short tonight because this will be coming back to us again. It's the constant spread of alcohol. So just to quote a couple different groups that have happened within the last 40 years. Word from the World Health Organization: an increase in the number of places that sell alcohol increases underage drinking, crime, child abuse and neglect, self-inflicted injuries and injuries from car accidents. That's from the World Health Organization. From the CDC, the CDC lists several evidence-based strategies that have been potential to reduce underage consumption and other alcohol-related problems. The number one thing for cities to try to regulate alcohol is to regulate alcohol outlet density. Licensing and zoning restrictions can be used to limit the number of concentration of alcohol retailers in an area. States and communities can decide when and where alcohol can be sold by supporting laws that are proven to reduce excessive alcohol use and related harms to drinkers and others. Regulating the availability of alcohol, including maintaining limits on the number of days and hours when alcohol can be sold, as well as the number of places that sell alcohol, are strategies proven to reduce many of the harmful outcomes of drinking too much alcohol, even for non-drinkers. And that's just part of what I'll say when we get to vote on the ordinance. Thank you.
Alderman Lundrum.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm torn on this one because I know we do need more development and more, probably specifically large convenience stores maybe on the west side. But my worry is that this will be a death knell for the small mom and pop owned businesses. So I do worry about them. So thank you.
Alderman Paulno.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to speak in regard to development. My wife's fortunate enough to work as manager for many years at Quick Trip, and she's been at meetings specifically with Don Zietlow there. Don Zietlow was the founder and the original person who, brought us Quick Trip. And at that meeting, the one city that came on his lips was City Neenah, saying that he would never develop development dollars for the city of Neenah as long as they have this ordinance in place. That's what he said. He said, and Quick Trip is one of the most respected, well thought of companies in the state and probably the Midwest and maybe the country. So I think it's a ill-advised space to be in when Don Zietlow, the founder of Quick Trip, is mentioning the city of Neenah in a negative light. And I think this will do wonders to give us the opportunity for development in a lot of different areas that the city needs. Thank you.
Alderman Steiner.
So I certainly respect and understand people's concerns about alcohol. I understand, Mothers Against Drunk Driving have done some fantastic work. I think it'd be a more pertinent argument if we didn't have alcohol in the city. We can buy alcohol in any number of other establishments, grocery stores, liquor stores, Walmart, Walgreens. You can go to many of our fine restaurants and bars and imbibe, however you want. So I don't see any cogent reason to me to restrict convenience stores that are becoming increasingly the neighborhood grocery stores. I think from my perspective, our role is not to decide which businesses through legislation are doing better than others and restricting the ability of one business because they're a certain size or not a certain size. Every large business at some point was a small business. And the reason they grew is because they were offering things that consumers decided they wanted. And so I firmly believe that we leave it up to the consumer to decide on which businesses they go towards. Whether or not it favors is really up to the economic marketplace. I don't think it's our role to decide which businesses are going to be surviving and thriving. I think the business decides that and consumers decide that with their feet. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? The motion on the floor, to remind everyone, is for the directing of an ordinance to be drafted relative to this issue. This is not the passage of that ordinance. That ordinance still remains to be drafted. Just to make sure everyone is clear on that. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor, just a quick question on this. Can we have this come back to us at our next council meeting?
The ordinance?
Yes.
no guarantees, but I'll do my best.
Thank you, sir.
Any further discussion?
Jim just whispered to me, he's not here for 2 weeks. So it's unlikely to be at the next meeting because clearly we would want his review of that as well. Yeah, and we would come through committee. Anybody else want me to say anything? So it would come through Public Services and Safety Committee, our committee of jurisdiction.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 7-1. That is the end of our council directives portion of the meeting. Is there any unfinished business? New business, then. Arrowhead Park Development Status Report. Do you have anything to report, Alderman Hillstrom?
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to say something on other business quickly.
Oh, okay.
Just about all the great things that have been happening in Neenah in the last couple of weeks. And the Community Fest, that was another awesome done program by our Park and Recreation Department, and a lot of volunteers that spend a lot of time there. I mean, there's people that are there from 7:30 in the morning till late at night volunteering. And they need to be recognized and thanked for doing that work. And it was an awesome day, other than a little bit of rain in the afternoon, and fireworks were fantastic. There's also the Swiftie concert last Thursday. That was a crazy amount of young males that were there for that concert. It had to be a record number of people there, and it was just awesome by Future Neenah to put that on. I hope they do it again. The Filthy Fun Kids Run was Saturday. They had over 500 kids running in that. That was another great success. And the Neenah Summer Fun Runs have a record this year for a number of kids that have done the first 3 runs. We'll be doing the 4th run this Sunday. So just a lot of great opportunities in our city, and a lot of volunteers make these possible. So I'd like to thank all of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Hillstrom, and thank you for all of the volunteer work that you yourself do, particularly with the fun runs. So if you need any more volunteers for the last one, I'm available.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have anything to report on Arrowhead, or no report?
Yeah, just a little bit. There's going to be a meeting the beginning of August to review the RFPs that are coming in from 5 different corporations. So that'll be coming up as it keeps moving forward.
Thank you for that report. I just wanted to remind the aldermen that Daniel Foth with UW Extension will be presenting How to Be an Effective Alderman, a training to be held on August 7th at the next council meeting, prior to the next council meeting that will be held at 5 p.m. I also received an email during this meeting, it was pretty exciting, that the Fox Cities Chamber of Commerce just received the Chamber of the Year Award, and that's a national award for the best Chamber of Commerce in the country. So really proud of the Fox Cities Chamber and our participation in that chamber. So that's great news for all of us. Is there any additional new business? Alderman Steiner.
So this might be addressed in the training that we have coming up. When I first started, I had read through the welcome packets in regards to what's a walk-in quorum and, open records laws and things, but I'm not sure if I understand it like I thought I did, especially in the digital realm. So I'm wondering, it seems like it's a hot topic of interest. You might say it's the pickleball of our council nowadays, piggybacking on Scott. His update. So I'm wondering if there's just an opportunity. I don't want to necessarily, if it needs to be a directive, but just to learn more so that everyone's clear about what constitutes, kind of a walk-in quorum, what happens over email, I just think it'd be a good clarification, I think, for everyone.
Right. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And I know that is part of what Daniel Foth covers. And I have already had a conversation with him, or an email exchange with him, just to touch base before. and meant that's a great reminder to me. If there are particular things that you all would like to have covered, I can communicate that to him.
Yeah.
And I will include that
Okay.
particular piece.
Perfect. Thank you.
Alderman Paulno?
Thank you, Mayor. Just one quick question in regard to the East Regional Central Planning reshuffling that they're going to have. We're going to have a better voice on that. I think that was July 24th that's coming up. After that, is there any action, first off, that the council needs to take, or will that be appointments forthcoming, or how will that process go? Because we don't have any definition really of what, I don't think how we're going to do that.
Yeah, I think I would need to review that again before I provide an answer on that.
Okay, cool. And I would also advocate, hopefully, a future committee, the whole meeting, that maybe we could have some of them folks in front of us to give us the insight of how that works, because I think they're a very great organization. I think our knowledge level is not near where it needs to be on that. Thank you.
Yep, thank you for that. Any other comments? Otherwise, is there a motion to move into closed session?
So move.
We need, are you going to restate the whole motion? The whole motion describing for the audience why we are going into closed session, the statutory exceptions, must be included in the motion or announced by the chair.
I would move that the council convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Section 19.85(1)D, except as provided in S 304.061 EG by the rule promulgated under S 304.061 EM, considering specific applications of probation, extended supervision, or parole, or considering strategy for crime detection or prevention. Council Directive 2024-01, acquisition and use of the meridian barriers, and I would so move.
Second. Do you want to have the second part of it as well?
Unless you want to come out and then go back in.
No. Actually, could you also read off B?
And B, to continue.
And C.
And C, to continue. Wow, that was a comic strip. The council may remain in closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.81, I.E. 1E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, the potential creation of tax incremental district number 14, and the council may convene into open session to consider action on the items discussed in closed session. Please, may I say, I so move.
Second. Thank you. Thank you for that motion. And second, moved by Alderman Ellis, seconded by Alderman Boyette to move into closed session. Okay. Please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
The City of Neenah is pleased to provide video recordings of City Council meetings. Neenah residents can get information about City Council meetings, City Committee meetings, meeting agendas, and other documents from the City website, www.neenahgov.org. Neenah residents can express their opinions about city issues by contacting the mayor's office, contacting their city alderman, or completing the electronic feedback form on the city website. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited.